Welcome to the Skiff. I am Matt. That is Stu. This is the Green Beret Life, and we are a 501c3. If you want to reach out, we do training for pistol, rifle, shotgun. Everything we do is to try to get veterans and first responders into outdoor events. Sometimes that may be shooting. So, anyways, if you want to get involved, if you guys have a group of people and you want to get some training, send us an email. We've got the email below there. If you're a veteran, or you're a first responder, it's free. So hit us up if you're interested in that. Otherwise, we got a good show tonight. We're on YouTube and Rumble and Odysee, correct, Stu?
Absolutely. We are streaming on all three.
And what do we have on the docket tonight?
We've got, let's see. Trump has basically federalized the DC police force due to incompetence.
Bravo.
Well, we'll talk about that.
Did you see the diversity hire police chief when somebody asked her about the chain?
I've got that. Matt, don't jump ahead. We've got those, man. We've got those.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to talk about that. There's more and more coming out about Adam Schiff. His mortgage fraud, I believe, is probably going to be the least of his worries, or I hope will be the least of his worries soon.
Adam Schiff for brains?
Yeah, that one. We've got, it looks like we may have birthright citizenship actually getting up in front of the Supreme Court. Now, the story will be told once there's, they hear the cases, are they going to do what they should do and interpret it the way it should be interpreted and the way it was intended to be interpreted? Or are they going to go with the liberal flash mob? Hey, Troy, thanks for joining, man. Good to see you.
Hey, Troy. Is Troy in the lab?
He is.
All right.
Yep,
badass.
He is. I've got another story here. We've got HHS volunteers running down 65,000 messages left on a hotline for minors that have come in over the border. And these messages were left during the Biden administration and were buried. So, and we've got a little bit of data on some of them they've resolved so far, and it is as bad as you think it is.
Mm-hmm.
The last story I've got, I'll hold on to the specifics of it until we get to it. But you know how we always tell you, no matter how much you hate the media, you don't hate them enough. The story will absolutely reinforce that. It is. But it's nice. It's nice to be validated, and this story does that. It absolutely does. And I mean, do we want to bring up that? Do we want to talk about the story we were just talking about right before we went live? The SIG story.
Oh, the SIG story. Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit.
Because I brought that story up, so I've got it right here in front of me. We can hit that at some point throughout the evening.
So for everybody that doesn't know out there, we're fans of SIG. I guess you could call us SIG fanboys, but we're just not fans of SIG. I think we're fans of all the big good gun manufacturers out there, right? And we've followed this issue with the 320s for a long time, and I think I've gone on record saying I think that this is a negligence issue. And I think if there's one thing that helps push that negligence issue forward, it is the lack of a trigger safety, right? And I've often explained here because being an ex-cop, I can very, very, from a position of having seen it, I can tell you that there are many, many cops out there that will only train when the department pays for it, right? Right. And a good department trains once a quarter, right? Many, many departments train once a year. Now, Stu, is training 1 to 4 times a year proficient for someone who carries a firearm on their hip as part of their job to be able to be proficient with your weapon?
No. I mean, I feel
Hell
like
no.
if I haven't gone and you, there are two different, well, not two different trains or trains of thought, but just two different kind of ways to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel rusty and not as efficient as I should be if it's been a month since I've shot, or you know what I mean. And
Mm-hmm.
my job doesn't put me in a position multiple times a day where I may have to use a firearm.
Mm-hmm.
I would hate to feel like if I was in a position to use an essential piece of equipment to save my life or to save somebody else's life, and I was, even if it's not, not even proficient, but woefully unprepared to use that piece of equipment. I mean, you don't have your paramedics showing up at a crash site and pulling out the manual for the defibrillator, going, what should that setting be? I mean, your surgeon isn't sitting there and Googling, how to remove an appendix before you roll into the operating room. They know
Mm-hmm.
how to use the tools to do their job, and they're proficient with them. I just
Correct.
I see this the same way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's one of these things out here that these incidents keep happening. They keep happening, but yet the P320 X5 is one of the, if not the most popular competition pistol on the planet, right? And these incidents don't happen at at competition events. Now, I'm not an engineer. I can't tell you 100% that there's not some sort of flaw somewhere in any of these guns, right? I can tell you that there's 3 million of these guns out there, right? And after you establish that a large number of these guns being out there are going to lend themselves to more being involved in a negligent type deal, okay?
Well,
Now,
let me ask you
if
something,
there's
Matt.
something wrong with the gun, I'd like him to find it. But there hasn't been a third party laboratory that's been able to replicate this issue.
Well, let me ask
And
you something real quick.
it's
You
gotten
said,
to the point where the 2A community eats its own, right? Because there's been controversy surrounding this gun since it was adopted by the US military and then multiple militaries around the world. And then federal agencies picked them up, and then law enforcement was picking them up. And it's kind of like a Ford Chevy thing because, uh, if you're a Glock fanboy, you hate every other gun out there. You even hate Glock
yeah,
clones like Shadow Systems or Zev. It's
yeah.
really weird, okay? And it's like a cult. So, in my opinion, and you have people actively cheering for the destruction of. Now it goes back and forth between the two largest small arms manufacturers in the world are Sig and Ruger. Believe it or not, Can you hear me,
Hmm.
Stu? Okay,
I can hear you.
and
Can you hear me?
yep, I can hear you. That's why I
Okay.
wanted to
Well, hold
say
on.
check.
Let me ask you a question real quick before you get on. You were talking about the guns, and um the big thing is you're huge into IDPA, and
Yeah,
like you said, that is,
IDPA and USPSA, both of them. Yeah,
and the 320, at least in IDPA, like you said, is one of the most common guns, and those
correct.
guns are in and out of holsters multiple times a night, week in and week out, being the shit run out of them. And you've
Correct.
not seen anything at IDPA about a gun being
Or you
jostled or
or
you know,
USPSA, which is bigger than IDPA. I mean, they're
right.
all over USPSA, right?
But my point
So
is, with that high of a concentration of guns being run in the way that they run them in these events, and it would seem to me that if there were a flaw, it would show itself there. In
correct, correct. That's where you would figure that this would show up, because the abuse these guns go through and the high round counts that these things are going
right,
through.
yeah,
You know, the the funny thing with all of this is that, you know, the only incident I heard of this ever happening in competition was this guy, this YouTuber Gungus Khan, who did his first steel challenge match, and he came on and did a whole video about it. And there were some people that were there that allegedly said, hey, it didn't happen like he said. And they said his shirt was in the freaking holster. So when he put his hands up, see, in steel challenge, for some goofy reason, I don't know why they do this, they make you start with your hands up. You have an option of where you put your hands, but they make you start with them up. Okay.
mm,
And if it's a center fire cartridge, if it's a 22 cartridge, you don't have to do that. You're pointing at a cone, right? But um, that's the only incident I ever heard. So, long story short, we're dragging this out. There was an incident that happened. There's been a few incidents that's happened in law enforcement here recently. Some of them have been on camera, but not one of them on camera has shown if something got into the holster, whether it be keys. Some of them have shown actual handcuffs being in the holster and everything else.
there's
Whether the
been
gun was
videos where
pulled.
the guy's finger was in the holster.
Oh yeah, and there's been videos where it appears that the gun wasn't seated in a level 3 holster, right? And he
Yeah,
bangs it off. So the, the public is skeptical, and then once you start getting the 2A community out there, frothing at the mouth, and those fanboys of other brands, particularly one brand, right, jumping on board and cheering for the downfall of the largest, if not, Ruger, and just to give an, I know we stopped there for a second. Ruger and Sig are the two, they sort of go back to back, largest manufacturers. Okay, just for reference, Glock sells about 400,000 guns a year. Do you know how many Sig and Ruger sell?
mm.
1.5 million a piece. Okay, so they're the big boys, right? And you cheer for taking down a company like Sig, because this could ruin the whole company. And there is no more German Sig. German Sig is a conglomeration of German, Swiss, and now US, right? The
Yeah,
German government ran Sig Germany out of business. They're gone. So Sig is essentially, and for all intents and purposes, Sig USA now, right? It's an American company, right? And you got these clowns out there. Oh, Sig hasn't handled it right. Okay, maybe they haven't. Okay, I ain't gonna argue with that, right? Uh, but they're sort of between a rock and a hard place. So fast forward, you have an incident that occurred about 2.5 weeks ago with an Air Force. Now this is unique because the Air Force guns and all the military guns have safeties on them. The M18s, the M17s,
yep.
right?
It's basically
And
320 with a safety, right? That's the only real difference in the gun.
yeah, that's exactly. And you can get a manual safety on your 320 if you option it, and your 365 if you option it out that way.
Yeah,
But another thing to keep in mind is, we had mentioned the 3 million guns being out there, and just by sheer volume, you're going to open yourself up to more incidents, especially, you know, if they're in the hands of people that aren't fully trained and you don't have a trigger safety, right? So, anyways, this incident in the Air Force happened where it was originally put out that an Air Force, an airman, right? Um, Took off his Kevlar vest and uh, took off his pistol. And this Stu and I were talking about this. Back in my day, they would have never allowed a line unit, like a regular line unit in the military, to have QLS systems, which enable you to take the whole holster right off of your belt, right? Stu, why, why wouldn't they allow that back in the day?
Because the next guy that came in to use the shitter would find your gun sitting on top of the toilet paper dispenser.
That's exactly. These guns would be getting lost left and right. Okay, because let's face it, there's a lot of the same going on in the military too. I mean, not when you get into more of the combat arms units, but you've got young people that maybe aren't as trained as they should be, getting these pistols and everything now as well. And yeah, that sounded funny, but anyways, uh and they said he put the gun on the desk that he sat down in front of, pointing at him, and it just went off and shot him in the chest, right? And there's something just didn't sound right. But of course, the whole internet, just because there's people out there cheering for this, right? I'm not cheering for the airman's death, but cheering for negative publicity to justify what they think is going on with these 320s, right? To reinforce what they're out there telling everybody. And it just went absolutely, so much so that I saw Brandon Herrera on Louder with Crowder, right? And Louder with Crowder, sponsored by Walther, by the way. But as far as I know,
Yeah.
and saying just ridiculous things that there's no way he can prove. And it's like, wait a second, dude. And I like Brandon Herrera, right? And I'm like, what in the hell are you doing? So now he's introducing this to a whole new crew of people that are pro 2A, but not necessarily gun people. So everybody jumped to conclusions about this gun. And out of the blue, we get a message from IDPA that the gun is being banned in IDPA. And that dropped like a freaking bomb. Okay. And I had mentioned that I'd called IDPA to ask, and I talked to a very, very nice person there, because I'm thinking, okay, so a bunch of these ranges are concerned about insurance companies and lawyers and everything else right now, so they must be banning the gun because of all the publicity it's getting on YouTube, right? And then this airman incident happens, which takes it past just the 2A community, and people are getting worried by lawyers and insurance, and they're being told they have to ban the gun, right? So I call up and I find out, nope, it was the CEO's personal choice, or the woman who runs IDPA now. It was her personal choice, just because of all the coverage from YouTube and everything else that she's seeing. That this is the gist of what I got, okay? And she doesn't want to take a chance, right? There was no incidents. I asked, I said, were there any incidents in IDPA? No. Are ranges telling you, well, there's ranges that are banning it, but it wasn't that. Insurance companies? No. All right. And it boggles my mind. But they did say, hey, if this is all proven to be nonsense, they will gladly reinstate the company. Or I mean the gun, right? And lo and behold, Stu, do you wanna give the update on what happened with the latest report that
Yeah,
every
we've got
every big YouTube channel jumped all over this? I'm talking about before this report came out, that this gun went off and this and that and the other thing. One other thing I want to make is, a lot of these big YouTube channels, okay, the mob has come for them. And if they don't say something bad about SIG, they get attacked, right? So what have all the big YouTube channels that are looking for clout, right? They're looking for clout. They're looking to not have any negativity, so they get more views and more people subscribe and all of this. They're all out there bashing SIG, with the exception of a couple. And
yeah.
one of them is GBRS, and they have taken so much incoming. Now, do they have some sort of partnership with SIG? Yes, they do. But I saw Mike Glover, who SIG helped him get his company off the ground, and I saw him throw them right under the bus, right? These guys at GBRS, I have more respect for these guys, man. I mean, they're taking the fire, and they're not bending to it. And there's a couple other channels out there. There's one called Thinking Man. Go and see what he's been doing. I mean, he is taking these legitimate tests. You had a guy out there, Wyoming gun something, who was screwing a wood screw up into the fire control unit, basically taking all the preload, bypassing all the safeties, and then jostling the slide to get it to go off with a blank in it. Well, this guy Thinking Man shows you that just about every single one of these guns that they all are going to do that when you remove all of the safeties via the trigger point.
That's funny. When you intentionally defeat every safety aspect of the gun and the trigger group and the trigger and all the internal safeties, and then manually actuate the firing pin, guess what? The gun discharges.
He did it with a Glock and it discharged. And they're like, oh, that's an old, because it was like a Gen 2. So he went and got a Gen 5. And he did it with a Gen 5. And they are losing their mind, right? And then he put this 320 in this shaker rig, and he put a camera on it for an hour. And the shaker rig is freaking violent. But it's a good channel. I suggest you go and look at it. He's only got he's got under 2,000 subs. So I went and subbed, just because he's taking the smoke and doesn't give a shit. So, what's the latest story, Stu?
Well, what we're looking at, the latest is there's been an airman arrested in this shooting that led to all of this drama. And when you get down here and look at it, it says the unidentified airman was arrested on suspicion of making a false official statement, obstruction of justice, and involuntary manslaughter. The statement did not say when the airman was arrested or detail his or her suspected role in the death of Loven, who was the airman that died. But if you've got somebody under suspicion of making a false statement, they lied about what happened. Obstruction of justice, they were trying to hide what happened. And involuntary manslaughter, they were involved with what happened. So there's a lot more going on here than someone that pulled their holster off of their rig using an attachment that either they were using unauthorized or things have changed a lot, and set it on a desk and sat down in his chair, and it just shot him from across the room or whatever. There's a lot more going on to it, and there's more coming out. Hopefully, there'll be more news on this here soon.
Well, Stu, some of the rumors were that started to leak out right before these reports were released. Was that horseplay was involved, and that the actual shot was fired that hit this individual went through a bathroom stall, right? So,
see, to me, I mean, I guess my thing is, all right, I can't even see how horseplay leads to someone getting shot in the chest, much less through a bathroom stall. Yeah. I can't make that math work.
You can't make the math work because you can't imagine anybody being so freaking stupid as to be pointing a gun at somebody, or you know what I mean?
That's what I'm saying. It would. Well, I was trying to make the math work as if the gun were still holstered, because my brain wouldn't even process that they're pointing the gun at each other and messing around. But that makes more sense.
Well, I don't. At this stage, I don't think the gun was holstered, dude. that's the long and short of this.
That's why I was hung up. I couldn't make, horseplay through a bathroom stall in the chest equal gun being in holster. Just wasn't.
Horseplay in a bathroom stall is quite common in the Air Force, isn't it?
Probably more so in the Navy, but I wouldn't say it doesn't happen in the Air Force. I mean, the Army, you guys just do it in the latrine pit or the porta shitter. You guys don't even get a hard bathroom. You just break the toilets.
Open. Fuck it.
over by the mulberry bush or something.
Oh man. Oh boy.
But
Yeah,
like Matt was
we're
saying,
laughing here, and there's a poor dude that is dead. God bless this dude. Um, and you have somebody that's lied about this that obviously was aware of all the drama surrounding Sig and figured that was his way out of what the hell was going on here. Is what it sounds like. Now we don't know
well,
shit,
you know,
but
again, in hindsight, looking at it, I don't even know if I don't even know if I would attribute it to, knew about Sig other than just an, oh crap, the gun just went off,
yeah,
kind of.
maybe I don't know.
I think that's maybe more likely, but regardless, everyone took that tidbit and ran with it as far as they could.
Hmm. At the end of the day, these guns are still banned in IDPA. Now, just to be clear, I have I have 5 of these set up almost identical. 2 for IDPA because the rules are different in IDPA. The guns can only weigh 45 ounces, and I have 3 set up for USPSA. Right, and those guns are significantly heavier. USPSA has not banned the gun. IDPA has banned the gun. So, because the gun is so damn popular, that's forced everybody to go out and buy another gun. And I'm in the process. I've picked a CZ P10 full that I'm building up right now to be my new IDPA gun. But you know, it's I for me, it's not. I know this gun is never going to work like that X5. So it's just one of these things here that I'm pissed off about. Now, at the same time, if there is something wrong with the gun, I want them to find it, but nobody's been able to replicate this. You have to identify a problem, don't you, in order for a problem to exist, right?
Well, and that's one of the things that I've wondered is, especially, these were, private individuals alleging it happened.
Hmm.
Okay, that's its own thing. They've got some of these that are alleged to have happened to police officers. It's like, okay, why is that gun not take, removed, sent somewhere to the FBI, to some testing lab
They have
to
been.
have
They
it?
have been.
Right,
The
right. That's what
FBI.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
And nothing's come of it. And
Yeah.
that's the part that, really, makes me doubt a lot of this, is because, like you said, they've taken these guns that have allegedly, had a I don't know, wouldn't be a negligent discharge, an uncommanded discharge,
Yeah.
and sent them off to be tested, and it can't be replicated. I mean, I would assume these labs are thorough in their process, but it
Hmm.
doesn't
Well,
doesn't
you have the argument out there where people say, well, it's not happening with the P365, and those don't have a trigger safety either. Uh, Even though the 365 is probably the most popular gun sales wise. Last year the 3 most popular guns were these 365, the 320, and the Glock 19. Those were the top 3 of the most popular guns. Okay, and while you have quite a few 365s out there, you don't have the 365s in use. That you don't have 3 million of them out there. Okay,
right.
and in use in duty holsters for law enforcement. I know there was an issue at some stage with one of the Safariland holsters that if you had a holster designed for a light, it had a big opening in it, and things like handcuff legs when people were getting in wrestling issues trying to subdue a suspect, getting inside. That happened in a Walmart with a female cop. Her one of her the legs off of one of her cuffs got in and pulled the trigger. You can very clearly see. Um, but that shouldn't be happening either. That's obviously holster design and everything else. I just think and I'm not an engineer. I know these guns inside and out because I pull them apart so much, but I'm no engineer. I am basically a parts changer, armorer, right? That's basically
Part
what I am.
swapper.
Yeah. And
and there could be some next level shit. But Robert Burke, who is an expert on this gun, and Bruce Gray, who are experts on these guns, are like, there's nothing going on with these things that would cause this to happen. Now, if there's a flaw with the gun, I want it to be found. But you've got to identify a flaw, and this has been dragging on for so long. With these little incidents happening here and there, and I think they get highlighted because it's the SIG, right at this
Yeah.
stage, because these incidents are happening with all different brands of guns. Okay, but because it's the SIG, it's getting all the attention, and anytime one goes off, that's just another see, there it is again. So
Well, hey, let's move on, Matt. We've been on this one for
mhm.
half the show.
Okay.
But one of the things we were talking about before with politicians and everything else, one of the ones that we've all been hoping and praying gets his due is Adam Schiff, and it looks like our prayers may be closer and closer to being answered. We know a few weeks ago we talked about Schiff being under investigation for mortgage fraud, and people were like, "Well,
it wasn't for pederassery,
well, no,
allegedly." Allegedly.
well, because what people weren't understanding was like, well, he just got a mortgage and said he lived somewhere else. Well, it's one. There's several things. He's a representative out of California, which means his primary residence and his home of record needs to be in California. Well, then in DC, he was buying property and saying that it was his primary residence, and he was staying in DC, not in California, more, the majority of the year. So
Isn't it funny? Isn't it funny that pricks like this that are screaming you don't pay your fair share are doing everything they possibly can. Him and John Kerry, remember, with his yacht.
That John Kerry had his yacht registered in another state, so he didn't have to pay taxes on it.
Yeah,
but
to avoid taxes. Yeah,
but with Schiff here, this is two things. One, he, by his own admission, he is ineligible to represent California. And secondly, the issue with the declaring his primary or secondary home, when you're applying for a mortgage, there are rates you do not qualify for if it is not your primary residence. So by lying and falsifying these forms, he was committing mortgage fraud because he was saying he was qualified for rates that he was not qualified for. That's where the mortgage fraud comes in.
It's funny. Letitia James did the same thing. Isn't it funny? All these Democrats.
He did.
No one is above the law, I thought, except for them, huh?
But what's even better is that's not all Schiff is looking at here. It's now come out that he approved leaking what he knew to be classified information and intelligence, just in the hopes that it would smear Donald Trump. And this is all concerning Russiagate. And there are FBI interview files with the person that had come forward with this, and it had come forward with this in, when did they start coming out with it? Well, I was reading the article
2017.
Earlier.
He started approving this in 2017 in order to this whole conspiracy that goes from Obama on down, right? In order to tie Trump, and obviously Hillary was doing this initially. It started to tie Trump to the Russians to distract from her server sitting in a closet in somewhere in Colorado, right? So they're trying to frame that Russia interfered in the election, which won the election for Trump, and especially since Obama's own intelligence agencies came to him and said, "Hey, they had no effect on and they did nothing of any significance
Yep.
digitally, and they said, "Oh, screw that. We're going to say this and this and this." So they changed the
Yep.
intelligence and then tried to just do a full court press and use the media, the Mockingbird press of media, in order just to keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. And you can see all of these Democrats. I think a bunch of them are going to get cooked over this.
I hope so. And the thing with this is, and I screwed up and lost the story that I had, but the thing is, Schiff was saying, "Oh, there's nothing they can do to me because of the there's a rule or a law or whatever that they can't be prosecuted for what for what they're saying in the well of the Senate." But he wasn't. This wasn't him speaking in front of Congress in the well of the Senate. This was him leaking classified information to other people that were not cleared to have it. That's a crime. There are people in jail for that inadvertently.
Wait a second. Was he leaking it? Was he actually leaking it to other people who weren't authorized to have it, or was he approving it to be leaked to other people?
I'm sorry. You're right. He was approving the leak.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's how slimy these people are. You want to talk about, oh, the criminals are just using middlemen so they don't get prosecuted. The hell is this?
Yeah.
What is this?
Yeah. This guy has been a clown show from the very beginning, and he fails up. So he's a congressman.
Yeah, he really does. Yep. He is the epitome of the turtle on the fence post.
Have you seen that guy Tom Shalhoub, who's a comedian on Gutfeld's show, imitate Adam Schiff?
I don't think so. The name's familiar, but I don't know that if I've seen him.
You've got to look that up, dude. He hits it perfectly. This guy's a freak. This guy Schiff is a freak. And this guy just hits his essence perfectly with this whole deal. He's even got the rosy cheeks, right? Schiff looks like the little shit that was getting wedgies being thrown in the dumpster when he was in grade school because he was tattling on others, right?
That's this was the guy that wore the hall monitor badge with pride.
Exactly.
But
he was the guy. Once they got to the locker room, that they were taking the jock straps they were finding down in the corner and putting it over his mouth like a gas mask.
Freedom just said, he said there's a formerly hidden FBI memo that was just released. I think he's talking about the 302s that I was talking about. That's very damning to Schiff. And he said apparently Vance did an interview where he responded to questions about all these subpoenas that have gone out. And he's saying that, they're not releasing anything, or the administration is not going to release anything until the investigations are over. So I guess, my thing is
that's probably smart, because
absolutely.
If they leak it in portions, then you allow the media to start creating different narratives and trying to confuse, whereas you dump it all on them at one time, and then you dump something else on them at one time about somebody else. They're looking at a lot of people. They're looking at Pelosi. They're looking at the Clintons. They're looking at Schiff. They're looking at Merrick Garland. They're looking at a lot of people. And whoever these aides were that were running the damn auto pen, we have not heard the end of that. So this is a powder keg.
Well, it's funny, Matt. You bring up Pelosi. Well, she is a key player in our next story here.
Really?
I do say. It kind of plays into these next couple of stories. Kind of all play in and tie in together. But do you remember this little thing that happened around in the beginning of January a couple of years ago?
Around the 5th or the
according to some people, it's the worst thing since Pearl Harbor in 9/11.
Yeah,
and
it's something.
The bad thing is, if that's true, this mug right here is the one responsible for it.
Of course she
Because
is.
you guys have
Among
heard,
others.
you guys have heard here in the past, I think it came out last night or the day before, Trump is, for all intents and purposes, federalizing the DC police force because of the, I think it's
Incompetence.
35 or 36 murders per 100,000, which puts it in the I think the top 4 in the nation for murder.
Well, no, I
And
think in the world they're comparing it to like Baghdad. They're comparing it to some of the biggest shitscapes across the world, and it's got a
oh
higher
yeah,
murder rate. Yeah.
well, I'm just saying I know in the country, I think Memphis is first, then Baltimore, and something else, and I think DC in the US. But the point is, here's Pelosi talking about Donald Trump delayed deploying the National Guard on January 6th when our Capitol was under violent attack and our
We all know
lives
that
were
was a
at
lie.
stake.
Yeah.
Now he's activating the Guard to distract from his incompetent mishandling of tariffs, healthcare, and blah, blah, blah. Well, there's a specific individual by the name of Stephen Soon who was the Capitol Police Chief on January 6th, and he's doing a little bit to set the record straight. He says, on January 3rd, I requested National Guard assistance, but your Sergeant at Arms denied it. Under federal law, I was prohibited from calling them in without specific approval. That same day, Carol Corbin at the Pentagon offered National Guard support, but I was forced to decline because I lacked the legal authority. On January 6th, while the Capitol was under attack and despite my repeated calls, your Sergeant at Arms again denied my urgent request for over 70 minutes, running it up the chain for your approval. When I needed assistance, it was denied. Yet when it suited you, you ordered fencing topped with concertina wire and surrounded by the Capitol with thousands of National Guard troops. And Trump authorized the deployment of as many as 20,000 Guard troops in the days before January 6th, but the offer of troops was reportedly turned down by Washington Mayor Muriel Bowser and Pelosi.
Mm-hmm.
So this,
I watched an interview with that police chief about a year ago, and he was dropping the truth bombs then. And listen to this: his head of intel was a female, right? Who was bypassing him on January 6th and giving the intel directly to Pelosi, right?
wow.
Allegedly, right? And this woman wound up as head of security for University of California, Berkeley, which is a huge, huge job, right?
Wow.
Isn't it funny? What district? Whose district would University of California, Berkeley reside in?
I don't know, but I'm gonna hazard a guess and say it might be that one right there.
Nancy Pelosi. Yeah.
Wow.
This
Who would
whole
have
thing
thought?
is so dirty. This whole thing is so dirty. Everybody knows. And believe me, she's just one cog in this. From Millie, from you, the whole crew were in on this. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to go out on a ledge and I'm going to say Pence was in on this too. But we know that
I wouldn't doubt it.
we're now starting to see Bill Barr with his neck deep in a bunch of shit, right? And very, 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 very interesting. And we're going to get more and more. That's why I say you give a few little tidbits, but that's it. And then when you get all the information, you drop it like a freaking bomb from above on everybody. And then you send the Mockingbird press into a frenzy because they don't know which to cover, right?
Well,
Instead of them building a case to shoot these things down one by one with disinformation.
well, they replaced that chief who was requesting the assistance and denied. He was actually basically fired and run out of office immediately after January 6th because he was pointing this stuff out and they didn't like it.
Well,
But
they replaced him with Stunning and Brave is what they did.
They did. This one right here. And here, as we were saying, Trump has come in. He's federalized,
What is that even? What the fuck is
we're going
that
to find
even?
out in a moment. That's the surprise reveal. That's the plot twist.
Oh
So,
my Lord.
The Trump has basically put Pam Bondi in charge of the DC police force. So this police chief and Muriel Bowser are doing a press conference, and they're saying, you will see the Metropolitan Police Department working side by side with their federal partners and blah, blah, blah. She told one of the reporters, one of whom asked, can you tell us what the chain of command is now? What does that mean? Well, doesn't know what a chain of command is.
Do you have the video of her saying that? I mean, she's deer in the headlights. She's deer in the headlights.
Let me see.
Obviously dumb as a box of fucking rocks. She's been in law enforcement for so long that she's now the chief of a major police department, and she doesn't know what chain of command means. Oh my goodness.
Let me see.
Holy smokes. This is you can't make this shit up. You cannot make
But
here's
the funny part. Bowser stepped in after Smith, who's that individual right now, the police chief, a former chief of the United States Park Police and chief equity officer for the MPD, is that Minneapolis Police Department.
Yeah.
So she was park police and an equity officer, and now she's the chief of police in DC.
Yeah.
She doesn't understand what chain of command is. But
I didn't know she came out of Minnie, but that sounds about right there. That sounds about right.
And we get, like I said, all these stories are tied together. You've got the existing DC police chief run out because he was trying to do his job and they wouldn't let him. They bring in a chief equity officer to run the police force. And then we get here at the DC crime. Everybody's, if you listen to anything hell, Fox News is probably parroting at this point now. DC crime's at a 30-year low. It's never been lower. Everything's down by 20 and 30%.
All lies.
What they don't talk about is this right here. A commander is on leave for allegedly falsifying that data.
Mm-hmm.
You get down here, and these are the claims. Violent crime in the nation's capital has fallen sharply, reached a 30-year low. But then you get right down here, the Metropolitan Police Department, MPD. Maybe she was the chief equity officer there before she went on to become the chief. But anyway, the Metropolitan Police Department recently suspended a commander for allegedly manipulating that data, a fact the mainstream media excluded. And you come down here and they're explaining what they did and why. So this right here is coming from the police union. And we know the police union is not going to throw one of theirs under the bus unless it's bad. So here's what he's saying. When our members respond to the scene of a felony offense where there's a victim reported that a felony occurred, inevitably there would be a lieutenant or a captain that will show up on that scene and direct those members to take a report for a lesser offense. So instead of taking a report for a shooting, a stabbing, or a carjacking, they will order that officer to take a report for a theft or an injured person to the hospital, or felony assault, which is not the same type of classification. When management officials are directing officers to take reports for felony assault, or if they're going back into police databases and changing offenses to felony assault is not a category of crime that is listed on the department's daily crime stats. It's also not something that is a requirement of the FBI's crime reporting program. So by changing criminal offenses from, say, example, assault with a deadly weapon, bat or gun, to felony assault, that would avoid both the MPD and the FBI from reporting that as part of one or as a part 1 or a felony offense. So they're literally going in there and changing the classification of things of violent crimes to ensure they're not reported as violent crimes, and then coming out and saying, look, we're not reporting all these violent crimes, and guess what? Violent crimes are down. You can't,
this, and this guy didn't make this decision on his own. This came from above him, right?
Yeah.
You just don't know.
Oh yeah.
It is yet, right? So,
because again, he was a police commander. So, this guy as the commander, he's getting his orders from the chief.
Mm-hmm.
We all know the chief is a political appointment who serves at the pleasure of who, Matt?
Well, that was Nancy Pelosi.
The mayor.
That was Mayor Bowser. But
yeah, so I mean, this is all
Capitol Police. I think Capitol Police ultimately fall under Congress.
You know what? You could be right. I'm sure there may be kind of a dual deal between Congress and the mayor, but because they're metropolitan police, they're not Capitol Police. They're Metro Police. But the point is, no one in this chain.
Wait a second. I think Metropolitan and Capitol Police, I think they're the same.
They could be. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
The point I'm trying to make is neither this police commander, these captains, or these lieutenants made this unilateral decision on their own to falsify this data to this extent.
And this Muriel Bowser she's neck deep in all of this. And she's an absolute disgrace as well. So Washington, D.C., this is all confusing because Washington, D.C. is so unique. It's not a state, right? But it's our capital. And Washington, D.C. has been, if you've ever been there, there's parts that are beautiful because it has so much history and all of this, but it is a shithole. It is an absolute shithole. And Baltimore, once beautiful city, which is right up the street, is an absolute shithole, right? And this is needed. Trump is going to go in there and he is going to solve this problem. You had high profile people getting murdered, people that worked in the Trump administration and congressional aides and all sorts of stuff. And people
I think
right.
I had another story that had listed a couple of the things, but I don't know. I had several stories here. Maybe it was under this one.
You had roving bands of kids, like 14-year-olds, assaulting elderly people, and sometimes some places killing them, carjacking people violently, shooting people. And then when they get caught, they basically get sent to a little country club because they're juveniles. Or
they don't get prosecuted at all.
Yeah. They're intentionally doing this, not because they're trying to do a favor for the kid. It's because they want to prolong this disaster. They want this thing to fester. They want the destruction. They want all of this bullshit. And right now you see the media frothing at the mouth, trying to make this a racial thing, right? Whereas the citizens are welcoming what Trump is doing because he's going to clean up this city. He's going to clean it up. And that's the long and short. So this is needed in the worst way possible.
Here we go. I found it here, Matt. Some of the things you were talking about. There was an intern for Republic representative that was fatally shot on June 30th. 2 employees of the Israeli embassy were killed in May in a shooting carried out by a pro-Hamas activist. Democratic Rep Angie Craig of Minnesota was assaulted in her apartment in 2023. These are all things that have happened in the last 18 months or so, and it's crazy what's going on. And like you said, these are high profile, and I really doubt that this Democratic rep in Minnesota was staying in
Angie
the
Craig
ghetto.
she represents like Scott County and southwestern uh portions of Scott County, southwestern Minnesota. She partially Republican area. She's not a Republican. Um
Yeah.
but that's a pretty hoity-toity area of Minneapolis. And yeah, she's a fairly high profile congresswoman.
All
So
right. Well, well, let me see. We've got a couple of things here. Freedom had said it's been well documented that over 1/3 of cities were not reporting crime to the FBI, even
correct.
back in 2023. And he was saying,
Absolutely.
DC, the Vatican, and the City of London all have weird governance. I didn't realize London
Oh
did. I knew Vatican
yeah,
did. They're like their own country, but
yeah, yeah. The
I didn't realize
Vatican.
London had something weird like that as well.
Yeah, and the Vatican is protected by the Swiss Guard. If you ever been there, I would encourage. Italy is cool, but I've been told it's turning into a mess because it's being overrun by migrants, violent
Yeah.
migrants,
I,
right?
I've been to Italy working once, and I was down in Naples, and it was interesting, but
Yeah.
it wasn't the sightseeing part of the country for sure.
Yeah, Rome, you can't help. I'm not a huge sightseeing person, but it's hard not to be like sort of in awe when you go through Rome, and
Oh
see
yeah,
the
I'd
Vatican.
love to be able to
Exactly.
go do that.
Yeah,
But
and then Florence is another one that's really interesting if you can go and see it. There's so many. Italy's probably my favorite country in Europe, to go to. Um, but yeah, it's a shame if I know that London, you saw it over a course of 20 years just turn into a complete third world shithole. And that's happening to all of these beautiful cities in Europe.
yeah,
And the people are fucked because they say anything. You see what they're doing in Great Britain now. You say something online that you're not happy with millions of third world migrants being dumped into your country, then you're racist, right? And
yeah,
you open yourself up to arrest because you don't have freedom of speech over there.
no,
So
not even a little bit.
no. So
Well,
yeah, it's a mess.
the last story I have here, you remember I told you, um, no matter how much you hate the media, you don't hate them enough.
Yeah.
Well, there's a group in Denver. They have an X account. They're called Do Better Denver, and
Hmm.
basically they call out the government's nonsense, their lies, their hypocrisy. Telling you just calling out all the nonsense. Well, there were two citizens. They're not administrators of Do Better Denver, anything like that. They went and did a public records request for
Hmm.
some information, provided it to Do Better Denver, and said, "Hey, this is what's really going on."
Hmm.
Well, the Denver Post then goes and does a public is like the Spider-Man meme of standing around in a corner and pointing. They
Hmm.
went and did a public records request on the public records request to get all the information of those two citizens, and then basically dox them.
You know,
They
there needs. How is it legal for these big media outlets to dox somebody? Or who was that asshole a few years ago that doxed uh libs of TikTok and
Yeah,
doxed her and her family?
yep.
That shouldn't be legal. Hey,
Well, here,
you.
listen. It gets even better. Just the absolute uh, sense of superiority. But it says on August 1st, the Denver Post exposed the names, locations, voter registrations, and employment of three private citizens who legally obtained public information and sent some to the popular social media site Do Better Denver. All right. And this is the Denver Post columnist Krista Kafer defending it. People who claim to be citizen journalists must stand by their work with a byline and endure the negative comments and
great.
threats that
That's
come
great.
with the job.
That's great. So everybody at the Denver Post that had a say in this needs to have their homes, their phone numbers, and everything listed, because they're professional journalists and they need to show up by example how you stand by what you do. They need to have all of their shit doxxed. This is insane.
But
boy, oh
it's,
boy. I hope they sue the shit out of that damn rag of a newspaper.
And it says, Do Better Denver, which is the X account, alleged that the Denver Post did this at the behest of local government officials angry about public disclosures of their activities.
Yeah.
One public record, one of the women...
They need to be exposed too.
Yeah. One public record, one of the women discovered, for example, showed the city paid $2.1 million for vacant rooms for illegal immigrants.
Dude,
so all this
stuff. You know what? Back it up a little bit. There was a huge scandal that happened in Minnesota where people were looking up other people. There were some.
Oh, did I lose you, Matt?
Can you hear me?
I can't hear. Are you there?
Shit, I'm here. I can hear you.
Okay, I got you. I can hear you.
Okay, I'll put on the air conditioning again. They were looking up information, and these guys all got rounded up, arrested, charged, the whole 9 yards.
Huge deal. So it is illegal. So now you know that if there were public officials, where did the media get all of this information on these people? Where did they get that information? Now, some of it's open source. Some of that they could say open source, but I bet you an investigation needs to be done between those public officials and the media. And if those public officials leaked information, they belong in jail.
Well, here's the post, Matt, from Do Better Denver. They said, I've been informed that the mayor's office were the ones that looked that Colorado calls them Cora, the FOIA request over the last 2 years, and tried to figure out who I am based on Cora request and the Post based on who is requesting them. The mayor's office narrowed it down to 3 names. And right down here, talk about the Freedom of Information request and the government hiding stuff. In March, a CBS investigation found out Johnson's staff, who was the mayor, stopped communicating in emails subject to open records request after they received records requests from a conservative legal group about the city's refusal to enforce immigration laws. Johnson's staff switched to an encrypted app that automatically deletes messages, which could violate open records laws. This is the same, thing
Snapchat. That I think that's Snapchat that he was probably using.
Snapchat or WhatsApp, something like that. But this is the thing.
Doesn't Snapchat automatically erase after a certain period of time?
It does, but I don't know if Snapchat's encrypted or not. I know WhatsApp is.
Oh, okay.
But the point is, like, these are public officials. There is absolutely nothing, zero communication they should have in their capacity that is anything they do to intentionally circumvent the ability to hold them accountable for what they do should be punishable. This is ridiculous. And it says right here, the Post article says Denver police stopped responding to information requests in March from Do Better Denver at the direction of the mayor's office. In defense of this decision to dock 3 women, the Post quotes a woman whose arrest for assaulting a police officer was posted on Do Better Denver. And this person that was arrested for assaulting a police officer said, "Don't dish out what you can't take." So I got nothing, man. I don't even know anymore.
Yeah, it's insane. You can't hate them enough. That's from
But
the
this,
You Can't Hate Them Enough file. So,
I saw this story and I said, Matt is going to love this one.
yeah,
But
it's these shitbags. They, nothing happens to them, and that's the problem. These people's constitutional rights have been violated, and
yeah,
laws have been broken. I guarantee you, they need to investigate that mayor's office all the way up, and who maybe
well,
have done
again,
the
Matt,
work in the mayor's
what are they
office.
going to investigate? They've been sending messages over encrypted apps that delete. They're literally hiding their
Isn't
criminal
it illegal?
activity.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I
But
guarantee you, there's if they investigated, they'll find other areas they chipped up. They tripped up. These
oh
people
yeah,
aren't
they
that
can't
smart.
hide
They're
everything.
arrogant more than they are smart. So
Yeah. But that's all we've got. And Freedom clarified the quote, City of London is a distinct area within London and has its own governance. Okay, fair enough.
I didn't know that, and I've been there a number
I
of
didn't
times.
either. Look at Freedom, full of semi worthless information.
You are on it. Well, hey guys, thank you again. Thank you for taking part. Thank you for providing information. Thank you for educating us. More than anything, thank you for being a patriot. Live in freedom every day. We will see you guys here next week at the same time. And we can't express enough how much we appreciate you guys.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week.
I don't know.